Hi. Uh, so I know this is a weird way to start a conversation, but I want to talk about Fight Club. Recently, I've been thinking about that film and how it could be read as a trans metaphor. Now, I know that's not the intention of the filmmakers or the author of the original book, Chuck Padalecki, but death of the author and all that. Sorry, Chuck. So, let's get into this then. And spoilers. Okay, so I know it's a bit conspiratorial to say that Fight Club could be read as a trans allegory. I mean, when it first came to me, I felt like that Charlie meme from It's Always Sunny. If you bear with me, I think I can explain my reasoning, and I can break it down into four separate parts: the narrator, Marla, Tyler, and Project Mayhem slash the Fight Club itself. So first, and honestly, probably most importantly, as he is the main character, the narrator, who, just for the record, I will be using he, him pronouns for, because that's how the film refers to him. Although, what I'm essentially saying is that this film is the most dramatic egg cracking in history. Egg cracking, if you don't know, is when a trans person finally realises they're trans. The more you know. So, firstly, the way the narrator talks about his life, it just screams unrecognised dysphoria to me. I mean, he describes his life as being far away, a copy of a copy, not quite real. Now, obviously, I can't speak for every trans person, but before I realised I was trans, I honestly felt very similar. It was like the world is between me and a pane of glass. It's like I'm watching it on a screen, not quite there, but also there. It's hard to explain, but those lines just stuck out to me as like disassociation through unrecognised dysphoria. Now I know that this wasn't the filmmaker's intention, but I would argue it could be read this way if you're reading the film as a trans allegory. So that's the first piece of evidence I have, but not to worry. Like any good lawyer, I come prepared and have much more. So, like I said, if we see the narrator as an egg, and before I make this point, I want to clarify I am not a therapist, I am not licensed in any way, just based off what we are given in the film. He seems like he does have a little or suffers a little from suicidal ideation. I mean, when he's on the plane, he imagines it crashing. And unfortunately, suicide is something that the trans community knows all too well. But it's not just those two things, it's also his constant searching for identity. Um, Trying on different personalities, different roles. Like he says, he's looking for furniture that defines him. And I know from my own experience that before I realised I was trans, I tried on lots of different personalities, lots of different hats to see which one would fit, which one would make me feel complete. But none of them ever really did, because obviously I was wearing them in the context of not being true to my gender. So from the very start of the film, we get this picture of a person who's not really living life, but just drifting through it, sort of going through the motions. And again, this sticks out to me as feeling quite transcoded. I'm not saying it definitely is. I'm not saying that if you're going through the motions and you're lost in life, that means you're trans and that transition will solve all your issues. Of course, I'm not saying that. I want to make that clear to any TERFs who are listening. I am not trying to corrupt the youth and get them to transition. But you're saying when all these things start adding up and going together, it then can be used to support that argument and support that reading. I mean, he even has dialogue about pondering waking up as a different person. Which is, I will say, it's interesting that when he says this line, Tyler Durden makes his first full appearance. I know he appears in the film earlier as like flashes or the flash forward scene, but his first full chronological, like fully manifested appearance. But so there is a counter argument here that I must address, that when he says waking up as a different person and Tyler appears, is because that's the person he wants to be, that's the man he wants to be. And I totally get this argument. I mean, I do believe it was intentional foreshadowing by the filmmakers to the later twist. But if we are to continue the trans reading, I could see it and could interpret it as, well, he's starting to contemplate waking up as a woman, being a woman. And then Tyler, his overtly masculine, let's call it a spade, toxic masculine side, starts to manifest, that overcorrection that many trans women probably do go through. I mean, there's a reason why so many trans women join things like the army, because they're trying to be the best boy there ever was. I can not take credit for that joke. That is a joke from Jesse Gender. But anyway, the point still stands. But I'll get more on Tyler in his section. And now for the other final big piece of evidence, there is the support groups. There are the support groups that he attends. So while there, he's allowed to be emotionally vulnerable. He can express his emotions, he can cry. And sadly, these are things seen by society, especially when this film came out, that are seen as stereotypically feminine. They are. You know, men don't express their emotions, they're stoic and strong. But this is the safe space where, reading into the subtext of the film, he can explore being more feminine in his gender. Now, I want to clarify, because before anyone says it, and for any of my non-existent viewers, comment below. No, I am not saying that if a man is stereotypically feminine, or does feminine things, or acts in a feminine way, or in ways that are deemed so by society, that means he's trans. Of course I'm not saying that. That would be ridiculous. Fuck gender roles. But just within the subtext of the film, I think it's important to notice that. I also wanted to point out the spirit animal, the penguin. Because when I rewatched the film, the penguin honestly sounded like a girl to me. Now, I can't confirm this, the voice actor is not credited, and I do not know the difference between male and female penguins, so I can't definitively say if that's the case. Thinking back on it, it's most likely just a child's voice, but I do think it's interesting. Especially when Marla shows up there later, which is the perfect time to get on to part 2. So, Marla, how does she fit into all of this? Well, I know there is a popular fan theory out there that Marla, like Tyler, is actually a figment of the narrator's imagination. But that doesn't actually matter to this reading. It's more important what she represents on a subtextual level, and that is both the woman he could be and a reminder of what he's not. Now, before the transphobes jump on this, I'm not saying that a trans person isn't really their gender, but what I am saying is that it is common in early stages of a trans person's transition, or before they realised it, for them to wish they could be the gender they are. I know I, for one, would often wish that I was a woman. Turns out I was one. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to clarify that point. So, in terms of evidence to support this, firstly, there's the fact that Marla replaces his spirit animal. He literally has a woman inside him. Come on. And then there's the way he describes her, like a scratch on the roof of his mouth. It sounds very similar to the way Morpheus described the Matrix.
Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
Plus, throughout the film, he's constantly pushing her away, rejecting her, ignoring her, trying to get rid of her, get rid of that thought, get rid of the idea that I'm trans, no, go away, go away, go away. And I think this is why he has such an issue with her joining the support group, at least on a subtextual level. Because, as I mentioned earlier, these support groups, they allowed him to engage in stereotypically feminine behaviours, which you could read as him, again, subtextually, is him exploring his gender, exploring the gender role, seeing what he likes. And then the idea that, he might actually be a woman, enter Marla. And then that scares him. He needs to get rid of that thought. He needs to get it away. He doesn't like it. No. That's why he has such a hard time with her there. So that's what I think Marla represents. Marla is essentially the woman he could be. But how does Tyler fit into this? Well, Tyler's the opposite. Tyler's an overcorrection. It's him trying desperately to fulfill the man role that society deems he should. There's a reason why the egg prime directive is a thing. If you don't know what that is, it's basically you don't tell someone you suspect to be an egg that they're trans, because an egg needs to hatch. If you open an egg before it's ready, you kill it. It's cracking an egg. Eggs need to be hatched. Is basically what the egg prime directive is going on about. And also, it can push people further into denial. So I think that's essentially what Tyler is. It's that denial. It's the overcorrection. It's trying to forcibly fit the mold of what he believes a man should be. It's interesting that lots of Tyler's threats are to do with castration and losing your genitals. And if we think about it further, when his condo explodes, he does try and reach out to Marla. Think about it. His whole life is gone. He has to start over, and he's thinking, I can start over with Marla, as Marla. But no, he rejects that and goes to Tyler, and he overcorrects as Tyler. And that's when the fight clubs begin, and the Project Mayhem, which brings me to Project Mayhem and the fight clubs. So, much like Tyler, the fight clubs are just the overcorrection of what he thinks men should be in society. They fight, they like sex and they drink beer and blah, 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 blah. But what's more interesting is Project Mayhem and how that fits into it. Because ultimately, Project Mayhem is Tyler trying to create a society or world that fits his ideals. So if you think about it, Project Mayhem is essentially what the narrator's life will be if he continues to reject Marla and embrace Tyler. It's the life he will be forced to live and stuck in if he continues to live as a man. And it's when Tyler disappears and he's left on his own, stuck in that world, he panics, he freaks out, he tries to save Marla, he tries to get her away from Project Mayhem because Tyler threatens her. And then, eventually, after all of it, after all the panic and the thing, and that, oh my god, this is the life I'll be stuck with if Tyler succeeds, he kills Tyler. He kills that man inside of him and embraces Marla. And then Tyler's plan to essentially reset the world by wiping out the debt goes through. And the world is reset. He embraces Marla and then says the line, "You met me at a very strange time in my life." And let's be honest, figuring out your trans and starting to transition and going through that is a strange time. It's complicated and weird and there's lots of stuff happening. So all this together is why I think this film could be read as a trans allegory. So let me know your thoughts below, my non-existent viewers, and hopefully I'll be making more of these videos soon. Thank you. Bye.